One of the judges, Seth Fuller, gave Dontel Mays that third round.
I mean, come on. That guy needs a talking to.
Hey guys, Seth Fuller, your favorite lawyer, maybe your least favorite MMA judge at this time, I don't know, maybe your most favorite. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So recently, I had my dream come true, like literally. I was able to judge UFC 277, a culmination of something around 15 years of dedication and 25 years of dreaming. And that dream came true, and I appreciate it. I appreciate TDLR and UFC and Mick Maynard and everyone who supported me along the way, friends, family, my wife, everybody. It was so awesome. But there was one controversial fight, and that's basically what I'm here to talk about. I'm not supposed to talk about it, but here I am, and I'm going to. No, I don't win here, no matter what. It seems like I'm being defensive or just stroking my ego because of what happened. And by what happened, I mean, after I judge the fight, I get a weird text right afterwards. I go home, and I see this.
One of the judges, Seth Fuller, gave Dontel Mays that third round.
I mean, come on.
I mean, I got to think that's one of the few scorecards in the world that had Mays in round 3, but Hamdi Abdelwahab on the map in the UFC, and 6-0 overall to begin his MMA career.
Somebody gave Dontel the third round, Joe. That guy needs a talking to. We need to check to see what he bet on.
No, but really, guys, and I'm a judge. I expected that maybe something like this could happen. I'm in the big show now. Got to have a thick skin and all that. But I don't think it's fair because I've seen this time after time where judges have to just deal with this sort of criticism and they're not allowed to respond. It's not that they don't want to respond, I promise you. And that's kind of why I am going to respond, because I talk to these big-time judges who go national criticism about what they do, and they're all dedicated, and they all do it because they love the sport. None of them are making a living off of it. And because the commissions are their bosses and the commissions don't want us talking about it, they're not allowed to. And so it makes them look like they're unprofessional. But here's the thing. They can't talk about it, and I'm not supposed to, but I will, because this was the one time, this was my dream on the UFC. I told people to watch this. And now anybody who watched it heard me disparaged, made fun of, and that's fine. I have a thick skin, but it's not right because it's just not factual. It's just unfair that a judge can't respond, and so I'm going to do it. And I think, and maybe this is just a justification for my ego, but I really do believe that the way to honesty, the way to truth is to bring things out in the open. And that by not responding, being able to respond to these things, saying, you know what, your criticisms, which could be real because there are real bad judges. They are out there, and there's real judges who judge a bad round. And so the reason I even went back and looked at this round is to see, did I judge a bad round? Was everybody right? Was DC right? Was Joe right? When I went to put down that score, I thought about playing it safe. But I had sat there for 15 minutes and dedicated my focus and employed my craft. And more importantly, I used the rules given to me by the commission, the rules we've established, to do what I thought was the right decision. And I would think by not responding, it gives the message that like, oh, y'all's criticisms are never valid, so we're not even going to deal with it. You know, kind of like a secret society, a shadow society. I mean, we're not even supposed to talk generally about scoring. And I heard a very well-regarded and established judge tell me that he got in trouble for just talking about the generals of judging. Well, I don't think that's right, and when I don't think something's right, a little bit of a rebel, so I just don't listen to it. And I achieved my dream, and I do love what I've contributed and what I hope to continue to contribute to the MMA community, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of what I feel is right. So hopefully this doesn't cost me my future judging career. So let's get started with that. I want to get started with my career. So I thought this was an interesting article. Another judge showed me this while we were there at the UFC. So he showed me this article that says the Texas Commission reportedly assigned exclusively regional judges with limited experience for UFC 277 prelims, and goes on. I mean, this is a pretty trash bait article, but they cite a real guy who's up for an award, Aaron Bronstetter, who says, I believe it's important for regional judges to get reps, but in my opinion, it should be alongside seasoned judges. So let's talk about that. What's a seasoned judge? What is a seasoned judge? Someone who's done the UFC before? So if it's my first time to the UFC, I'm not a seasoned judge. Well, number one, I don't think the UFC is any more important than any other fight. These fighters are all, from amateurs to locals to the big show, giving it their best, putting their lives, their health on the line, and I have utmost respect for all of them. And we use the same rules. In Texas, we use the same rules for all of them. I have been doing this for 10 years. I'm a first-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I have owned an MMA gym. I have trained kickboxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling. I've trained MMA for going on 15 years now. I have trained with several, I'd say about a dozen former and current UFC fighters, even employed one at one point. I've been cornered people, I've done media, I've written articles not like this, better than this, because I actually did my homework. I've produced podcasts, I've done pretty much everything you can think of, including reffing and judging for 10 years straight, only turning down one assignment, and it's on a rotation here in the DFW area, so I get about half of the cards in North Texas. I've gone to Wichita Falls, I've gone to South Texas. I figure I've judged about 80 cards and several hundred fights themselves, judged and reffed, because I do both. Now again, is that experienced enough? I don't know. I don't know what profession 10 years of doing something is not considered seasoned. Now here's my favorite part, because one of those people in this article he's talking about is Steve Armstrong. Now, this regional judge, Steve Armstrong, here he is at UFC 5, cornering Guy Metzger, UFC 5, and he'd been doing it since before this. How much more seasoned do you need to be? The other judges, Ken Basinger, Dan Mathieson, Aaron Menard, have also been doing it over a decade. These are seasoned judges. For them to talk about it, again, every time a judge makes a score somebody doesn't like, they have to insult them. They have to do ad hominem attacks. The last time I was calling one of the godfathers of Texas MMA a boxing judge. Whatever it is, it can't be that they just see it differently than you do. But this is the articles. These are the people, including myself, that they've written about, that their writing is not seasoned and need to have the hand held. And by the way, the reason they did that, the reason they put us on the early cards, is so that they didn't put us on the main card, because they didn't trust us to do it. I wasn't trusted to do the main card of the UFC despite my lengthy experience and dedication to this sport. And that's okay. I wasn't mad at all. I loved it, but I'm just saying it's because of journalists like Aaron that report things without even looking into the truth, the veracity of them. They don't do their job at all. They're not journalists. And I'm sorry, I know that's insulting to them. That guy is not a journalist if he's calling Steve Armstrong saying he's not seasoned. If he's saying I'm not seasoned after 10 years of doing this. That is false, it's misleading, and it's just because it's lazy journalism. Now that I've addressed that, let me get to the decision you didn't like. Maybe you shouldn't have trusted me to judge the main card of the UFC. Maybe I shouldn't have trusted, since I screwed up an undercard so bad that they're suspecting that I'm paid off. For the record, I've been on 2 fights in my entire life. 2 fights, not 2 fight cards. 2 fights in my entire life. The last one was Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holmes. My bookie welched on the bet, and I took that as a lesson and never bet on a fight again. So you don't have to check my record or who I bet on. I don't bet. Second of all, let's look at the fight. And again, I make mistakes. I thought I had made the mistake. I thought I had missed something. I kind of knew that the reason everybody judged this fight the way they did is because of the amount of time that someone was in a superior position. And now I'm going to get to that and address this fight in particular and why I did my score. So this is what they handed out conveniently and frames the standard of judging according to the unified MMA rules that Texas is under perfectly, okay? And I would like to go here. When one fighter demonstrates even a slight advantage in effective striking, that fighter shall win with that round without any regard for either fighter's aggressiveness or cage control. And then they show you if one fighter demonstrates an advantage in striking and grappling, none of the other advantages, none of the other aspects of the fight should even be considered. So I want to make that clear that his time on top is not important unless he's using it to do effective striking or grappling. And I know what you say, that is grappling. Time on top is not grappling. How you get people to the ground, how you manipulate them on the ground is grappling. Just laying on top of someone is a defensive grappling. But now we're going to go towards the unified rules themselves. Prioritize criteria. Effective striking and grappling. Remember, this is what they say, that if there is an uneven, if this is not even, you don't even have to consider the other things. Legal blows that have immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute towards the end of the match. These are what we're considering. Legal blows that have immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute towards the end of the match. With the immediate in bold letters, weighing in more heavily than the cumulative impact. Successful execution of takedowns, submission attempts, reversals, and the achievement of advantageous positions that produce immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute to the end of the match. Now that's important. It shall be noted that a successful takedown is not merely a changing of position, but the establishment of an attack from the use of the takedown. Top and bottom position fighters are assessed more on the impactful, effective result of their actions, more so than their position. This criterion will be the deciding factor in a high majority of decisions when scoring a round. The next two criteria must be treated as a backup only when they are effective striking and grappling is 100% equal. The things I want to make clear, it says it shall be noticed that successful takedown is not merely a changing of position, but the establishment of an attack from the use of the takedown. In other words, how much damage can you produce from that grappling and takedown? Now again, damage doesn't have to be just blows. It can be submission attempts, okay? But if it's just holding someone on the ground, while that can be considered on effective aggressiveness and fighting area control, it is not to be considered unless effective striking and grappling, and again, effective grappling means submissions and putting the fight where you are about to end the fight. In other words, a successful grappling exchange that is leading towards the end of the fight. Unless those are completely even, I don't even have to consider how long he spent on top. I'm not to consider it. In fact, according to the rules that they give me and that we go over at all these seminars that I take, when we have these discussions on Zoom with Andy Foster and some of the commissions and the judges, and we go over this stuff over and over, and this is the criteria I use, and I feel I do it correctly. So let's talk about applying that criteria to this third round. The first two rounds of this fight were not controversial, and everyone agreed on them. It was the third round that I had that made everybody question and my judging and insult me. And again, I want to just be clear, this is not just for my ego. This sort of thing, these sort of articles, these sort of comments gets to the commission, and it goes towards my reputation, and it goes towards whether they are going to use me again in the future. But the reputation is a huge one. This is my first time in the UFC, and now I have a reputation of being a bad judge. Millions of people heard those comments. So this is why I'm responding, and let's look at this fight. Okay, so this is the beginning of the third round. It starts at 4:53 because no strikes have been thrown up until that point. I'm going to concentrate on the effective striking and grappling. So this is going to be cut down. If you want to watch the fight, please go on ESPN Plus. If you're not subscribed, I strongly recommend you subscribing to it, paying the fee for it. I have the Disney Hulu ESPN bundle. Go get that. This is a fair use for this. I'm using it to comment. I'm not going to play the sound, so maybe this stays up on YouTube. Probably not. But here is the beginning of the third round, and I'm just going to cut through to all the punches and grappling exchanges that I thought scored points. So we have a strong, pretty decent kick from Mays against Abdul Wahab. And again, they're tied 1-1 in the first round. And this is the first strike. Mays gives a pretty good liver kick. By the way, a liver kick will end another fight later in this card, just to show you that I think it's a pretty effective tool, and it was a pretty good kick. Again, not devastating, but a decent kick that landed damage. Nothing lands here. Then a pawing punch, and then a fake punch to a takedown from Abdul Wahab. Okay, so the only strike that has landed so far is one liver kick by Mays, and then there's a takedown. So Mays is slightly ahead by one, I would call, significant strike. I don't think that landed, by the way. I am right here. I'm literally can see right here. You'll see me in a second, but I have the best view in the house, there is no doubt, of anybody but maybe those photographers. He's landing these punches. They are not hard, but they are cumulative. Again, I want to stress those punches score, and all these punches on the ground do score. But again, according to the rules that I'm following, they are cumulative in nature, and the immediate ones, the ones that are leading towards the fight, are the ones that I should count more. So again, that's a glancing blow. None of these are some pretty good punches right here, and I thought cumulatively these were scoring pretty good. Abdul Wahab is starting to pull away, because he's starting to do some real damage here. Again, some slight strikes, but again, cumulatively, these are working towards ending the fight. Eventually, if he keeps taking these little ones, they'll build up and he'll be able to take big ones. These are not nothing, but I don't think they are that effective. Right now, I can't even see these strikes. Personally, I'm looking at the monitor, so I can see them because they have a beautiful monitor there in the UFC. But as you can see, no doubt Abdul Wahab is using his grappling to land these strikes, and he is in top position, so he is in a position of control, but I don't care about the control. I just care that he's using it to land these strikes, and he's building up a pretty cumulative striking. Here we have coming up the best one. That missed completely. Again, to me, Mays is not being affected by these punches at all. They're uncomfortable. They keep them from standing him up. That one was one of the best. Boom, I slowed it down for you. That one missed and hit the chest. I saw that one clearly. That one too. That left hook did hit him in the chin, and now the judge stands him up. Now, this is important to me. I do not decide when to stand them up. I do not consider it in my scoring. I just score what I see once the ref does it. It's not my business. Just like any fouls or anything that I see that I think are fouls, doesn't matter. Kerry Hatley is the one in there. He's a competent judge, a ref, and he decided to stand them up. I understand that Joe Rogan and DC aren't happy with that. Okay, Kerry Hatley, again, being an experienced judge, decided to do it, and he rules. I don't consider that at all. But right now, all those punches I just showed you are the cumulative damage that Abdul Wahab has wrought. He has landed, 20 short punches that I think were not damaging, but 2 really good punches. I think that uppercut and the left hook were his 2 best strikes on the ground. So he's got 2 decent strikes. But again, I just want to say those are both cumulative also. I didn't think either of those was enough to really contribute towards the end of the fight. But again, I think there's 2 decent ones and a number of cumulative ones. So now Kerry stands it up. So now I had 1 kick at the beginning from Mays, and then I had a few decent strikes. I think probably even those out. That in my brain, that 1 kick was about equivalent to that uppercut and that left hook and maybe that hard elbow that he was able to throw. So right now, getting up in my brain, Abdul Wahab is up by many cumulative punches. I'd say about 10 or so. I'd have to go back to check, but maybe even 15. But they're all very small, not damaging, not leading towards the end of the fight. They are scoring though, so he is ahead in my book. So now we have the exchange after the stand-up. We have a decent body kick and a left hook that I didn't see landing well. When looking at it again, I think it landed even better than I thought in my head during the fight. But that knee, again, was more an immediate impact thing, was more likely to lead to the end of the fight, and was pretty decent strike. And this teep kick that's about to go, to me, was very good score. Again, another liver damage. Is a great teep kick, and I think contributed quite a bit of damage. Then a head kick that lands on the chin. What, did it knock him out? Did it phase him? No. The fact that it didn't phase him means I think it was just, again, one more significant strike that was impactful and immediate. Look, there's no perfect answer here. It's in every judge's mind. But to me, the kick at the beginning, and then the flying knee, the front teep kick, and then the kick to the head, those have him almost even to those cumulative strikes on the ground. Again, I think all he had was those cumulative strikes, and since then, Mays had landed 3 significant strikes that are more immediate danger and, to me, more effective than any of the strikes Abdulwahab landed on the ground. But to that end, I still think that Abdulwahab is slightly ahead. Again, another knee. That strike right there. Boom. That was a very hard looping right hook to the back of the head. And I want to make this point before you say, well, back of the head is legal. Again, if Kerry Hatley wants to call that and take a point or give him a warning, that's up to him. But that is an impactful strike, and it wasn't May's fault that Abdulwahab turned away from him. But to me, it was a very impactful strike. That was immediate, and that to me, it looked like he hurt him very badly. So now I'm getting how many of those cumulative strikes, those small little pat strikes, equal one large overhand looping right? I'd say several. So at this point, to me, Abdulwahab is somewhere even in my brain. Okay? Right here, he is somewhere even after that punch. Okay? I understand that he was on the ground for a long time, and I understand he took a lot of pillow punches. But he just landed a series of strikes that to me has made up for the amount of small pity punches. And again, if you disagree, that's fine. 2 other judges obviously disagreed, and I have no problem with that. But I just want you to show you I'm not an idiot. I'm not bad at scoring. I don't not know what I'm looking at. I do know what I'm looking at, and in fact, I would say that I know the rules that I just read to you better than the announcers, because the announcers just went through the course that I went through 12 years ago. And their scores were all over the place, and the judge who gave one of the judges who was there and in person told me that they were not agreed on anything. So at this point, I have Abdulwahab and Mays pretty much even. So now that left punch puts Abdulwahab a little ahead in my brain, and we have the rest of this series. A left hook that I think landed well. Again, I was on that side, and so I could see it land well, followed by a right straight, and then Abdulwahab lands his own left hook, which I say counters the other left hook. So all we have is the straight that didn't land that well. I would say Abdulwahab slightly ahead here, and I mean just inches ahead. None of those land. Again, a left hook and a kick. And there it was. A solid left uppercut, and then a vicious right hook that was right on the button, right on the chin. Shook the sweat off him. So now I'm sitting here. I had them dead even. I had Abdulwahab maybe a little behind at that point. But even if I had it even, those 2 strikes were significant. And in my brain, put Mays over the top. I didn't think it was even. If I thought it was even, if I had it in my head as even, then I would go to control, and there's no doubt in my brain Abdulwahab would win. However, that's not what I've been told, that's not what I've been trained, and that's not what the unified MMA rules state, and therefore that is not the rules that these 2 men agreed to. And therefore it'd be unfair to do anything else. And I thought about it. I was looking at that paper like, man, I could play it safe, because Abdulwahab was on top for 3 minutes plus. And he landed a lot of those little pea patch punches, so nobody would fault me. But that's not what I'm there for. I take my job very seriously. both of these fighters put their lives on the line, their health on the line, and their money on the line. It's not my fault that the fact that my score can affect one of their purses. I don't think that's right. I think that's a terrible idea, but I take it seriously, and I didn't just willy-nilly give out that score. I decided, I felt Mays, from everything that I saw, had outscored in damage Abdul Wahab in that round. And so I wrote it down. And it's unfair to me not only to be criticized from it. Let me show you the text I got directly after this. This is the text I got from a complete stranger who apparently looked my number up on the internet. Now again, as you might be able to tell from my response, it doesn't hurt my feelings, but I'm just saying, this is the kind of thing I'm exposed to. Now everybody who I said, watch the UFC, I'm going to be judging, heard my name and heard a bunch of dudes that are celebrities, I've been doing this a long time, who I respect. Dude, I listen to every Joe Rogan episode. I've listened to, since he was Snowflakes, hundreds of hours of Joe Rogan. And he's still my hero. Joe Rogan, you're still my hero. I got to meet him that night. It was an awkward little fanboy moment. Oh, I'm a fan of yours. But it doesn't matter. You're still my hero, Joe. But I have to face that, and everybody I know has to face that. And more importantly, and this is the important part, the commission has to hear that. Now the commission goes, hey, this is why we shouldn't have put this guy on the main UFC. This is why we shouldn't have put Steve Armstrong on the main UFC. This is why we shouldn't have put these local judges on the main UFC card. And that's, to me, a bunch of BS, because if I'm doing it wrong, then cite me for doing it wrong. But if you're pretending that I'm not experienced, or I was careless, or I didn't think and concentrate and do my absolute best, and that I don't care about these fighters and care that the result is the correct result according to the rules that they agree to, then you're crazy. You're just plain wrong. It's not okay. And so here I am. I hope I'm able to continue. I hope I don't look like I'm super defensive, and maybe I am. Maybe it's just my ego caused me to do this whole thing. It's probably a bad idea. I probably can't win here, but I think that by revealing what I, as a judge who's gone through this, can do, I think it will bring education. I think it could bring understanding. And I think that more judges deserve the opportunity to educate not only the public, but the commentators, the journalists, because no judge and ref that I know, again, there's two that have ever made a living, like Herb Dean and Big John. I don't know anybody else who strictly made a living. Most of these guys are retired from other things, have other jobs, run other gyms, and I respect them all. And they had to keep quiet for a long time and not respond to all those people for a long time, and therefore that makes them better men than me. But hopefully I serve as a representative. Hopefully they'll be kind of proud of me, yeah, finally someone's speaking up. So here you go. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Tag anybody you think needs to be tagged in this. And thank you for listening. Have a good one.